So it didn't have the. Surprise, surprise. You guys probably thought we were going to be late, but we're right on time.
I don't think so. We're on time this Sunday.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to another episode of Spooked Coast to Coast. As always, JJ Paranormal, Joy and Joey representing California, the West Coast, and Jen and Mondo, 305 Paranormal. Chat room, thank you for being here. We have Michael and Ashley Limestone. We have our very own Uncle Joe.
Joe, hey Ashley, Michael.
Greetings from 𝗟𝗶𝗸𝗘. It's been an amazing time going back in time, reviewing our investigation of Cassadaga with Joe. So definitely check out Greetings from 𝗟𝗶𝗸𝗘. The Cassadaga series was awesome.
Fooled you. We're on time.
Yep.
Keep you guys on your toes. You never know what's going to happen over here.
That's right. That's right. Hey, we have a new background, babe. Good job with that. What's going on back here?
It's March.
March. We're marching onto March.
Yes. Already. I can't believe that.
That's right. That's right. It's one of those unexplained things, if you will. See what I did there?
No pun intended.
Time going by. It feels just like yesterday that we were off fireworks celebrating the new year, and you blink and we're already on the March. That's so strange how time goes by.
Somebody talked about what's up, Michael, Joe, Chris. Thank you for being here. Joe said he saw Scream 7 and it sucked. A friend of mine, actually, I talked to him earlier and I said, and I knew he was watching it, but he watched it bootleg. He didn't watch it in the theater. And I was like, yo, how was it? And he was like, that shit was trash. And I was like, thank you. So now you are the second person in less than 6 hours or something.
It's a cash grab.
Really?
Yeah, it's totally a crash grab, of course. And then the guy that you think would be in it. So that's the other thing. Hey, y'all, you better watch on video. Hello.
All right. Well.
Oh man,
speaking of unexplained things and phenomena that are going out there, why don't you, babe, tell the good folks about our guest?
Hold on. I'm going to change this. There you go. So we don't cover.
I turn off my comments. You can, so you don't have to turn them on.
No, so everybody, y'all can see like from Joy's side and our side.
No, I turned off mine so nobody can comment on my side.
Oh.
Yeah. So you can delete it if you want. I want everybody to come just in one place so it's easier.
Oh, okay. Right. So yeah, you guys see the comments on the screen. So we're going to welcome tonight's guest. Very excited to talk to him.
I didn't even know you could adjust that. That's cool. Sorry.
Yeah,
because I was
like this.
Hiding. I'm like, yes, it's covering my face.
I know.
Because I'm breaking out. He's making me break out. But anyway.
Okay. So started at a local broadcast, a news feature as The Unexplained in Mississippi, by the way, because they are not in Mississippi right now, currently. Aired from 1999 to 2004. So these are early pioneers in the field. Fast forward to 2019, relaunched as what we know now as Unexplained Cases, built on an original core of principles of combining broadcast journalism and storytelling with historical research and with the paranormal. We're going to welcome Rick Garner.
Hello. Rick. How's it going?
Yay.
Hey. See, I can't celebrate very well because, you know, the backdrop.
The green screen? I know.
It just looks silly at that point.
Yeah, that's us too. We go in and out.
Right?
We're getting sucked into the, the portal and then coming back out.
Yeah.
The internet portal, I know.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks for being here. I was glad to finally talk to you. I mean, we've been on following each other for a while. And it's
exactly.
Nice. talk
Yeah,
to you.
and that's one of the things that I always appreciate too is basically it's one of the good things about the interwebs basically and social media is when you can make connections, you can have shared interests, you can support each other because I like basically sharing y'all's content basically as often as I can, and that's kind of what it should be about basically.
That's right. Yeah.
We're all learning together on this journey.
Pretty much everybody here, Jen, Mondo, everybody on the chat. That's how we met. Social media. Social media is a good thing, big thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I want to thank you also for that because you are a huge supporter in the community. You're always sharing other people's stuff, and I try to share your stuff as much also. And I followed you actually following from Dantex. He's one of our moderators on the chat. So he posted something and I watched it and then I loved it. And then I subbed from him. So it's like a gift that keeps.
It was like a circle, like a.
Absolutely, and that guy, talk about someone who's a supporter. I mean, come on,
yeah, for sure.
Major props there, basically.
Yes.
He's not even here yet. Wait till he sees that.
Right.
I love it. Well, so tell us was it paranormal introduced to you in your life, and then was it with you and Darren? Did you know each other from younger? Like, how did it all start?
Well, so if we take it way back, basically, if we get the way back time machine really going, I mean, Darren and I both grew up in having our own experiences, pretty much starting young, where his are a lot more interesting, but I'd never want to take away from his stories. Basically, for me, I never really had any encounters or anything that I can really pinpoint as like, oh yeah, that's actually how I got interested in it. It was really more about the fact that I just liked ghost stories. And being from the South, I was born in Mississippi. I was there for first 30 years of my life. That's where I met my wife. Our one and only daughter was born there. That's where my family is. A lot of connections, a lot of roots there, as we would say. Basically it's all about storytelling. So, I kind of felt like ghost stories really were just an interesting way to also remember history, because a lot of times they're kind of connected to an event, to a property, to a person, and maybe they kind of get like a lot of stories. They kind of get the yarn gets a little long, the fishtail gets a little big there, whatever. But it's definitely my definition of an urban legend. For example, there's always a shred of truth to an urban legend. It may only be this small, and it grew, silly from there, but there's always a shred of truth. So I'd like anytime that there was like a scholastic book fair at school, I'd be like, okay, what ghost books are there? I've got to save up my coins, get scrapped together a few bucks or whatever, because I want to make sure that I got a ghost book, or at the library. So that's kind of where the interest was. Basically I was in broadcast radio initially. That's going back to high school. Got into broadcast TV, and that's where around 1999, was working with Darren. Darren was a reporter at Channel 12. That's where I met him, the CBS affiliate in Jackson, Mississippi. And as you all can relate, every local TV station around Halloween always has the spooky stories. And some of them do it a lot better than others. Some are like, okay, that's super cheesy, but again, they're just trying to fill holes in the programming a lot of times, and it's that time, so we got to do something spooky. And of course, we did the same thing. But about in 99, we were kind of like, let's take this a little bit deeper. And we developed a series that was called Ghost Hunt. And really and truthfully, it was kind of on the same nature of things. Local story, shot really well by some of our talented photographers, put it together. We ended up getting some AP awards for it. And then around that time, we also started thinking like, why don't we do this monthly? Like, is there any way, like with the news director, would he kind of dig maybe this? And we had a very supportive news director, and if you think about it, news stories only last like really at most, you're talking about 60 seconds, maybe 90, about a minute and a half is kind of your typical package, as they call it. We ended up could have like a 5-minute block, which is for a newscast is like the entire block from commercial to commercial.
Yeah.
And we were given that to do once a month. So we had a lot of leeway. And basically we started going around looking for stories in Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana, just because that was easy to travel to. And that was the start of what was then referred to as the Unexplained.
Nice. I like the name. I love the name actually. Unexplained cases. Yeah. Yeah.
So we started off that way, and basically it was really interesting to have those monthly cases, and we covered everything that we could get our hands on with conspiracies, UFOs. Hauntings, of course, are always the easiest. And we ended up having 3 different specials, which would have been 2001, 2002, 2003. By 2004, I'd actually moved up to where I'm at now, to this area. But these were half-hour specials. And the very first one, we got a Southeast Regional Emmy, which was a really awesome honor to be able to get that for what we put together. Basically, all of our different segments, we just kind of like throughout that year, we put them together. And, short context on that, basically 2001, thinking about Halloween, thinking about September the 11th. And so basically we had to step back while we were working on this and really be like, wait a minute, do we actually need to put together a half-hour special, which is basically focusing on death, when you just had the September 11th attacks happen, basically the month before? And so we talked about it and we debated it, and it kind of became, now, of course, that year, there were areas people were like, we're canceling Halloween. We're not doing anything related to it. But we decided, like, you know what? Folks actually kind of need a distraction. And it wasn't like we were really kind of getting ultra scary or anything like that. That's never been our vibe anyway. But to tell these stories and have a little bit of distraction, we went ahead and did it. And quite a few folks were basically appreciative of, like, thanks for, almost kind of having like a distraction from everything else that was going on.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Let's see.
That's awesome. That's awesome, because I can remember back in those days, we just wanted to go back to some semblance of normalcy after dealing with that. And that's awesome. That's what you guys did.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, well, that's interesting. I didn't know, as far as like news segment wise, I think that is very good.
Yeah,
and
that is.
Yeah, I wish I would have started journalism also when I was younger. Like, the more you know now, right? Like, in hindsight, I wish I would have done that like in high school, because I would totally would have liked it. But I wasn't about clubs and all that. But it would have been good for me, like later on during the life.
Yeah, but look at the other side of the coin too. Who would have figured that the world would have been
freaking this
back in 1999, 2000-ish era? No one would have ever thought this would be a thing.
Oh no.
You couldn't have imagined this,
No, I mean, just as also how things have changed since then. I mean, at that point, we were more about documenting, and that's really also been part of our kind of like our DNA. Like, I consider myself, I'll call myself an investigator. I consider myself more of a documentarian, really, because what our mission is to preserve history by documenting the strange, paranormal, and unexplained. So then, especially operating out of a TV station, yes, okay, we're reporting, we're documenting, we were also then working with investigators, so we were learning things. And your tools were basically, EMF meters, cameras, recorders, and cameras as in video, digital cameras. That was just barely a thing, which is kind of fun to, odd to say that right now, but yeah, that was barely a thing right then. Otherwise, you were using traditional photography. So you had very basic stuff that was used, but yet as we learned it, then we were also able then to conduct our own investigations as well.
Very neat.
So throughout like all the experiences that you had investigating and learning from everybody else, like doing your journalism, I guess, in this, do you have any experiences that wowed you, like that you could say was memorable to you, or even if it was spooky or not?
So yeah, wowed. You know, I'm kind of intentionally, as we're chronologically flowing along this, I'm kind of keeping us back in the early days before we go forward. You know, at that particular moment, you know, a little bit of that was the unknown, because yeah, we were documenting it, but also, you know, you have that degree of what's going to happen, you know. And I think you know, you asked it, wow. I've had other people ask it as like, oh, what was your scariest moment? And I'm like, you know, nothing thus far has ever scared me, and I think that's because I come from a place of faith, and basically nothing's going to startle me. I'm kind of coming at things differently. Our design is not to be spooky, scary type of approach with everything, and to those that's fine. That's just not our vibe. But for me, the thing that was definitely the most, and I'll use the word intense, would be 𝗟𝗶𝗸𝗀𝗘 Mansion, which is in Meridian, Mississippi. And 𝗟𝗶𝗸𝗀𝗃 was one of those places that was well known for having hauntings. Eugene Gary basically was, you know, someone who didn't pass away in the house, but she was basically family connected to the house. There's a picture of her, kind of like an oil painting that was on the wall. And Marcus, who, when the house had been turned into a boarding house, not really sure of Marcus's last name, but he was a teacher, a local teacher. And this would have been during the, this is where sometimes the old brain hole gets a little mixed up with facts. So I kind of want to say that it was during the 70s. It was actually a little bit sooner, but I don't quote me on that. But it definitely was sooner than Eugene, or Eugenia. Need to pronounce her name correctly. But you had a couple of these stories, and so we're going here. And I always like sharing this one because also times have changed. Now, granted, this is the South, and Southern hospitality is a real thing for sure. But us having the clout, I guess you will, of a local TV station, that carries some weight. But basically, we had set it up that we were going to spend the night, see what was going on, see what we could document, something that had not been done there before. And this would have been, again, this was about like 2001. And as I say, the little old ladies that were at the counter basically handed us the keys and said, here you go. We don't stay here after 5 o'clock. Good night. And they were out the door, and Darren and photographer Rob Ruffin and I were just like, okay, we got the whole place to ourselves. Awesome. And also, you know, there wasn't any payment for that. Again, also today, if you're going to stay anywhere, there's some monetary expectations, but there was trust there. They knew where to find us too.
Yeah.
And so we spent the night there, and it was one of those things where you go the evening, and of course I tell everybody, it's just like, you know, really and truthfully, that's why, especially our more, you know, our unexplained cases phase of things, if you will, having more time to showcase investigations. There's always moments where I like to highlight how things are still. There's not a lot going on, basically. Yeah. Here's a real, you know, pulse of an investigation. And so that evening, there was nothing really that ever happened until later. But what happened chronologically is in the middle of the night when we stepped out to go down to a gas station, get some snacks and stuff, some sodas and whatever, and come back. We left cameras running and recorders while we were gone. Now, some of those we could listen to, like a little cassette recorder, could listen to and heard some stuff. Was like, well, that's kind of weird, but really we need to kind of get back and put it into our editing equipment. But the cameras, these are field cameras. These are
Right.
these are the big hefty, things that, reporters carry. And so there's no way to really review that. But that was one of the most fascinating pieces of evidence, because while we were gone, it was almost as if they waited to show out. There were knocks next to the camera, clearly a knock on wood. There were doors slamming. Sounds cliche-ish, but I was like, that's 1,000% a door slamming. There was a couple of those. And it was all that was kind of like captured while we were gone. But then the one experience that we had that at least kind of elevated things, and I love the, okay, now that's good TV moment. I am an editor, so, we have those moments of like, that's money. That's the money shot.
Yes.
When I was following Darren into a room, and basically he was just going to do a stand-up. And I had a field camera. It didn't have the best light. It didn't have the best mic on it. And he freezes, turns to the camera, points up to the ceiling, because we're both hearing someone walking on the roof of the building.
So there's no second story.
There's at that point, basically, you have a ground, you have a second, you don't have an attic, you have a huge ceiling and a flat roof that probably would have had gravel on it, because what we are hearing is
the rock roof. Yeah.
And he's like, dude, that's like somebody's walking. And I was like, yeah, that's literally sounds like someone's walking on the roof. And we're trying to like rationalize, like, could Rob had gotten up there because he was off getting B-roll? Like, why would Rob be on the roof in the middle of the night?
Before the drone shot.
Yeah, exactly. But nobody knows what it looks like. Talk about unsafe. We went outside to look. And so then you start rationalizing, like, okay, could it have been an animal? I'm like, these were heavy. So unless you're talking about a deer, there's not going to be an animal that heavy making those type of noises. So there was no explanation for it, but it was 1,000%. Someone was walking on that roof, basically, and it was nice to capture that moment. And that's just one of the most intense cases that we experienced.
So what did you guys do? Did you go outside to investigate, or did you?
So we went outside to basically at least look and see, like, okay, is there anyone around? And and we shone flashlights up there. There was no evidence. We didn't even know how to get onto the roof from inside, and there was no way to get onto the roof from the outside that we could tell. And so it just kind of became, it was almost like that was like at the end of the night, so to speak, and we're close to morning, and it was like, all right, well, it's time to pack up and leave. And that was actually perfect at that point to be like, okay, you decided to show off just before we left.
I love that. Yeah, that's cool. At least you got that big wow factor before the end of the night or the morning.
Exactly.
That's awesome. I love when that happens.
Mm-hmm. You don't always have that moment.
Yeah. Sometimes it takes a while for us, and when we investigate, it's like nothing till we're ready to go, and then shit wants to start happening, and it's like, really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's always when you want to wrap up, like literally turn your cameras off, and then like something that literally always happens. Like, it's expected.
So now I'm starting to be like, okay, we're leaving. We're gonna leave in like 5 minutes, knowing we're gonna be there for another 5. You know what I mean?
Right.
And they know you're lying.
They probably do. Yeah.
That was me with the creeper at Waverly Hills Sanitarium.
Oh,
literally, that's my story to the T. She's packing up. She's bending down to like pack.
Yeah,
and I'm looking out, and there was like no one's there to see it but me.
Wow.
Your moment is your moment.
This is
only for you. It's supposed to
you
happen.
guys can believe in me or not, but
No.
yeah,
See,
I'll take that one to the grave.
Because to this day, I'm like,
TV.
no,
See, and you didn't have anything recording it, of course, basically. So you just had that stuck in your brain hole.
Up. Yep. This was recording it right here.
Absolutely. Yes.
That's all that matters.
Yes.
Well, I was wondering what
thank you,
happened
V
to that.
team.
Thank you.
But everything's here.
Oh,
Appreciate it.
Cindy says we're all looking great on her big ass TV, and I said I hope it's not 4K, so you don't see like all the wrinkles and all the bags and all.
I should have shaved.
On my face.
she can see the hair growing out of my face as we speak.
Yeah, she sees all the wraps on my mouth and my nose.
Yeah.
In that case, nobody go at this angle because
Don't look at this one. I'm trying to bend down. Shit.
For real. I'm like talking like this from now on.
Yeah. That one, you don't gotta worry about it. When I'm filming and I'm like looking, I'm like, oh, I'm cutting that shit out. I'm cropping my ass out.
Oh, now see, when you talk about that, basically, that's when you have all the angles going, and I'm like, oh, I don't need my belly being shown like that.
Yes.
My belly, your back, your butt.
Yeah, that's why I rather be the only one filming. But when you're collabing with people, you don't know what you're gonna look like on their stuff. You know? Oh my God!
Why didn't you tell me?
The question there is, how good of a piece of evidence has to be versus like you cutting it. So let's say you look like shit, but you just got amazing evidence.
Oh, I'm zooming in just to the evidence. You'll just see a black screen for a minute.
Oh, now see, and me, I don't care, because if y'all happen to have noticed it, because I milked it, me falling down the steps at the Florence house. I was like, yeah, we're gonna milk that sucker, because I'm just like, yep, I don't care.
I've done that too. I fell. Yes, yeah. Yeah, he loved it. Especially Corey loves to tell the story when I ate shit. Yeah, he loves everybody.
You know, there was one time, Joe, I don't know if he's still in the chat, but he had put a thermal cam down like a whole pathway. I didn't even know that was there or recording, or if I did, I thought it was just a regular trail cam. I'm not really paying attention to it. So everybody's going back and forth, going to get drinks from the car, going back down this is in the women's facility. So the third row, the thermal is just recording anybody or anything going, because it's outside in the woods, basically. It's like outdoors. And then nobody's really paying attention to it, but when he reviews this footage and he goes, look at everybody. The area's hot down here, hot up here. And I was like, bitch, you delete all this.
Yo, we're on fire.
It's hot everywhere.
Swamp butt. What is it?
Hot in Florida. And I was like,
see, that's when
if freaking Bigfoot was behind
the evidence was great, but so was
I don't know about the evidence. The evidence of sweaty ass was great.
Of sweat, yeah.
Have you ever heard of that, Rick? Swamp House?
Oh, absolutely.
I've never heard of that until
What's
that maybe that's a South term, basically.
Well, I was going to ask you, actually, in Mississippi, is there any cryptids known to there?
Mm-hmm.
Well, yes. Interestingly enough, during our time, I don't recall any. I was just thinking like that, and just to verify, and I'm like, we didn't actually do an episode. It's kind of like, going through this. Some episodes or investigations are easier to dig up than others, because of course I'm looking at it from the angle of I'm trying to find people who've experienced something, who are willing to talk about it, who were police officers who saw it, or whatever the case may be. So in Mississippi, it's not like, there's kind of like some infamous ones, but I do feel like everywhere in every state, good old swamp apes, Bigfoot, Yeti, they're kind of like, they're all the same thing to a degree, basically, end up showing up there, or they're just generically referred to as like up here close to me, there's the Sykesville monster, which is basically allegedly a Bigfoot. But that's boring compared to the 𝗟𝗟𝗪𝗍𝗪, which is the most interesting name for a cryptid I think that I've heard of. And it's basically this kind of lizard winged bird creature that, again, like I say, I always go back to there being this little shred of evidence, like in this particular case with the 𝗟𝗟𝗪𝗍𝗪, somebody saw something and it was very weird. Now, over time, did they literally see something that was lizard bird like combo? Maybe, maybe not. But over time, what they saw, which was very strange and weird, became this thing, which then kind of got a name, and then it kind of takes a life of its own. And that's like how a lot of urban legends go.
It's probably a big alligator eating a big bird.
Could have been that.
And they saw him flapping around
like hey,
Wait, the actual big bird?
No.
Freaking circle. So sad. Oh.
What did they call?
What kind of episode of Sesame
Street?
𝗟𝗟𝗪𝗍𝗪.
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 Like Sally or Snally?
𝗟𝗟𝗪𝗍𝗪.
Oh, 𝗟𝗟𝗪𝗍𝗪.
Okay, as soon as I put Snally, I just want to see what it looks like.
Sally.
Oh yeah.
Girl.
Oh, it kind of looks like dude, I'm telling you, it could have been that, Joey. It could have been like a bird carrying something like a fish or some shit.
Yeah, exactly.
A bird carrying a baby alligator.
See, stranger things have happened.
It could have really been that.
See, and that's one interpretation of it,
Oh, it'd be like a big bird carrying like a image, like an alligator, one of those.
Or like a lizard.
Tentacles, and you
I've
had
seen that before.
3 tentacles.
Oh yeah, like 𝗟𝗟𝗪𝗍𝗪 said, your memory will betray you. Well, that's true. Yeah. So sometimes that's why you always got to document things. Oh, now see, that's that's interesting. That's a fever dream right there. So
for real. Oh my God, you get ibuprofen. Yeah, I've never heard of that.
Me neither.
See, I had not heard of that too until basically we started doing the YouTube version, Unexplained Cases, and then that was one of the things to where it's always easier to look in your backyard and see what you can find. And so there's a woman who had the pleasure to interview her basically because she's researched this, and I've been waiting to weave her story into a much bigger story, because a lot of times this is one of those to where there's 2 different investigations that I would have to call are multi-year because I've been working on them since 2020. So the editor in me is screaming like, release the files. It's almost like an Epstein kind of thing. It's like, release it, come on, let's do it. Actually, that was very like the Joker from Dark Knight there, basically. Everybody was crazy. So that's one of my faves there, basically. That's the best one out of that trilogy. But it's the reason that I haven't released it was kind of like you get to a point to where you want to have an investigation be complete unless you want to like chop it all up. Everybody's different in how they want to approach. And we're not approaching things from a content creator standpoint. So for us, it's more of, I guess you could say it's quality over quantity. Like I've never really worried about like, okay, we've got to have stuff, we've got to release this. And some would say, well, that makes it kind of weird for folks. And I'm like, I get it, but then we also have life. And so we're none of us are content creators by trade or anything like that. So it's kind of difficult when you have life and families and things and adulting that are going on to really be able to do things like that. But all of that to say, 𝗟𝗟𝗪𝗍𝗪 is interesting because it's always really cool to find a town that has hauntings, that has UFOs, that has cryptids. You kind of got the whole package. So you kind of want to do something justice at that point.
I would say so. I have a backlog of stuff I haven't released. It's because of that. It's because of adulting.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Adulting, life, no time, sleep versus the content and it still not be done, I'm like,
Homework.
whatever.
And shit,
It'll be there.
before that.
Yeah.
Probably won't get until 2027, 28. So.
Yeah.
We got content for years. Shit.
It's
all there. It's all there.
It's there.
The editing is, I can't. It's a lot. I props to whoever can do it full time. I can't do it.
Oh yeah, I love it, and even in my full-time vocation, I think folks don't appreciate like what it takes to make a video. Like, you know, even something that's just thrown together, and throwing together is really not very, you know, applicable, but we'll use that phrase on your phone. You know, basically in like Instagram edits. If you're still not throwing something together, because you still, especially if you're building it, it takes some time, and maybe the phone acts weird, and Instagram updated their app, and so now this doesn't work, so now I got to upgrade that because, you know, or update the app because it's acting stupid. You know, all these little things,
and you're still building a story with it.
Yes.
You know, and what led up to whatever you captured, or what's the point of it, you know what I'm saying?
It all takes time, and that I think that's where it's like, you know, if you're not doing that, you know, folks don't appreciate the amount. And plus, it is storytelling, and you know, it does come into, you know, kind of like what was mentioned earlier of like, well, what do you put in an episode, or what do you drop? And I mean, and that becomes a call, basically, you know, like especially.
Yeah, and then now everybody's attention span's like a peanut, so they only want like action, you know.
Oh yeah.
They don't want that just sitting there and investigating how it really is. They want to see what's happening. Yeah, they just want the good stuff.
Technically, investigation is boring, really. You know, you gotta like it to really continue doing it. Because some people are like, "Oh, this is cool for like the first maybe two things," but if you don't really are into it, you'll be like, next, like they want to do something else. You know, the next trend. But if, you know, because you'll sit there for 8 hours and get like maybe 1 hour worth of stuff.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And that's also what's funny too, is you get into the conversations too, especially if you try to lean into, okay, you know, what are experts saying basically? And it's so funny because I've had so many people who was see, now I got to look at this thermal video. Now, see, I
know, right? You guys got to find it and post it. Now
he wish he still had it. I can vouch that his computer crashed. It's probably from that video.
Is the red on their bodies was like nuclear.
I was like, oh my god.
It can't be lost. No, but you know, a lot of folks will say like, oh, it needs to be shorter, or oh, it needs to be longer, and it's like, you know, I think what really comes to be true there is it does depend on the platform. I think more generically speaking, YouTube, you know, it almost fosters basically having longer products basically there, everything else. But then what's funny is the things that they say should be shorter, they start defeating themselves in that sense, because TikTok, you know, and Instagram are like, oh, well, now you can have longer reels and you can have longer. And I'm just like, wait a minute, you just said you wanted it 60 seconds and now you can go up to 3. You could have 3. Now you can go up to 10.
Exactly.
Huh? So,
like, tell me what you want.
Exactly.
So you mentioning, actually, this is good because I had a question about one cryptid, but you mentioning the snarly or whatever that thing is called,
Snally. I know. I mean, well, actually, we can call up all the different names. This is awesome. This is fine. It's a weird name, so it's
I never heard of it. So it kind of makes me want to talk about something else I was going to ask you about, which leads into Mothman.
Oh,
so
yes.
Was it you or was it Darren that had went to the town and spoken to somebody there?
That was me.
That was you? Okay. So what are your thoughts after being there and seeing how the people really have, you know, stores on it? They love Mothman. They have the statue and stuff. Like, what's your thoughts on it?
You know, that's where, so that was not a real investigation. And what I mean by a real investigation, my definition is you're going to be camped out, someplace at least for several hours, an evening, a day, that's you're investing time. So that's what I mean by real. For me, this was literally like, we're coming back home. My in-laws are out in Lexington, Kentucky. So this was kind of a little sidestep there, basically, while we were traveling. And so that was only a few hours. But to get the vibe of a place, I mean, that's where, and we could go on a deep rabbit hole of, the whole marketing of things in the paranormal in general. But just kind of focusing on this is when you have a town that has embraced it, and you have a museum, and you have the statue, and in a way, I look at it as it's nice to sort of like allow people to experience something, and it becomes like, if honestly, if that wasn't going on there, I don't think that there would be any reason for anyone to go to that town. It's like kind of like every other small main street type of town, but you have that, and so now you have a tourism, so there's a benefit there. You have kind of like keeping something alive and letting people experience it, and so there's value in that. You do kind of have the flip side of like, okay, now it just feels like, are you cheapening it? Is it kind of making it hokey? It's a bit of a double-edged sword there, but then at the same time, it's like when you have all these folks, especially even though there have been sightings since then, for there had to have been such a concentrated effort at that particular time that led up to the bridge collapse. That was kind of like the pinnacle, and then things kind of like, filtered off after that. It's kind of like, what the heck was going on then for there to have been such activity, such sightings, such experiences? And again, it's like you could say, well, oh, it was something else, or a lot of times people are trying to like, pass it off as whatever, but it's like folks were experiencing something. Now, was it literally a moth man? Obviously that's just a convenient name for a cryptid, but for something that was, as they described, and having red eyes, basically, that's pretty freaky.
Yeah, like to me, like the snarly thing, right? I think it's a bird that was carrying some type of thing he was eating. Could be, whatever. That's what it looks like to me. So, do you think people are mistaking it for something like that? Like, and they're like, oh, it's a cryptid, whatever, but maybe it's in the dark and they just see some big thing, maybe looks like it could be a monster, but it's not.
Well, I think that's where, there's always the saying, not everything is paranormal. Because it's very easy to, if you're in a receptive mindset, sometimes it is just the house creaking. But if you're in that mindset and you're a little freaked out, or you think something is going on, 𝗟𝗏𝗃𝗀𝗃, I feel like I should know that name, and that's not ringing a bell right now. I'm gonna have to look that up and refresh my memory on that. You could be easily. Well,
yes, that's for me.
See, it's always good to have a little bit of help right there. See, Chad is very helpful with things like this. Basically,
yes.
It's good that there's some support there. But if you're in that mindset, it's very easy. But see, that's where, when you get into this, that's also what makes it very complex. That's why, from a journalistic standpoint, and you want to have people. Like for me, I want to have people who are willing to share their story. Clearly, that's better if they can come on camera. But for those who they don't want to be identified, it's like I always tell people, it's like, I can protect your identity. I can change your voice. You can be filmed in silhouette. I can just record your hands if you don't trust my editing ability, basically like that. But what's your story? And folks, basically, if you have in your head already, I didn't see that. Maybe that was this, or yeah, it was weird at the time, but maybe it was this. And then if you're going to have people who are going to judge you, because everyone is always afraid that someone's going to think they're crazy, and you weren't doing this, you were drinking, you were high, whatever, basically like that. Well, then they're less likely to come forward, less likely to share. But, and that's what makes it a bit of an art, is also to, for someone to come forward, especially if it's full on, okay, here's my name, here's my face, I don't care what you think, is pretty phenomenal, basically. But it takes an effort to to be willing to do that.
Yeah.
And with Mothman, there's also ties to kind of like UFOs, right?
Well, and that's where a lot of things you kind of go back to there. That's where, I mean, at base level, one can say aliens are maybe less extraterrestrial, more interdimensional. And therefore, that would explain why you can see Bigfoot one moment and he's gone the next. Or, even Mothy, basically, is like, well, I saw this thing and now there's no evidence. And if you have something that's slipping in and out, whether you want to call it portals, just for lack of a better word, then okay, then suddenly you could have interdimensional connected to a lot of things, even with the whole drone situation, basically, that was, New Jersey, and then basically kind of everywhere. Even Darren was seeing some outside his condo, basically, and he's in Washington State. You had that phenomenon going over everywhere, which wasn't a thing, and it was a thing, and we didn't know that they were doing this, but they were doing this. But you had so many instances of seemingly things that were coming out of portals, and it's like, well, were they? Were they not? It becomes something that it's easily to dismiss, just because it seems so crazy, but then it also can seem so plausible too.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna lead into. Darren, you seen the drone? I guess the drones or the orbs that he saw outside of his house, right?
Right.
Did he ever? What did he think about it? Did he think it was government? Did he think it was a little bit of both? Unexplained and government.
Yeah, I mean, I think he was of the nature, and again, you get into those situations where it's like, well, wait a minute, is that a plane? Is that truly a UAP, a UFO, or is that a plane? And that's kind of always a generic question, but it's like, it's really, oh, that's a UFO, but it's like, well, let's look a little closer. And you kind of get to that whole, like, it was kind of funny for Star Trek ships, basically, to also have running lights and have the red and the green and everything. It's like, that's kind of more of an aerial thing. So starships don't necessarily need that. So why would necessarily UFOs suddenly be popping up and having blinking lights on them, kind of like that too? It'd be like, would they really need to do that for our benefits, for for aerial flight? But for him, there was, in looking at his footage, and see, that's another case where you have to be very skeptical. He was thinking that one had disappeared in his video. I put it into my editing software and enlightened it, and I said, well, actually, dude, there's a tree that's there that you couldn't see until I basically manipulated the footage. And I'm like, yeah, it looked like it disappeared, but there was a tree, and in night he couldn't see it, basically, and he didn't see it on his phone. But that's, again, where it's like, you can see something's phenomenal, but it's almost like, yeah, don't immediately say, I've got some evidence. It's like, yeah, debunk it first.
Yeah.
Try to go through everything else, basically, before saying, like, and then at the end, like, a lot of our stuff is like, we kind of preferred a lot of times to be like, is it this? Is it that? You decide, kind of putting the onus on the watcher, basically, because still people are going to say, you faked it or whatever, and then some are going to be like, wow, that's really unexplained.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I wish. I mean, I've only known a few people that went out there and try to like investigate them, the orbs when it did happen, and I don't know. I don't know if that's still a thing, if it's still happening. Some people are still actively going out there. In like say like Project Fear, where they just went.
That was Jersey.
No, I know, but what? Damn, I forget the name of the forest they went. Oh, Pine Barrens, and they were looking for it over there. So I don't know. I guess people are still seeing them, or not as much. That's why yeah, definitely.
Well, and then I've I thought it was kind of funny that basically Rochelle Stratton basically like she was on the A&E Ghost Hunters basically, so it's kind of nice to still be in contact with Rochelle and Brian and some of those guys there basically. But she was in Mississippi recently, and she was at McRaven Mansion. And I remember making the comment to her, which of course she's got the type of personality that she's just going to use something against you, basically. So I had admitted, like I come from a skeptical stance, basically, with stuff. She knows what I do in the background. So for the night, and this was an event, this was a con that was there, I was known as the skeptic. And I was like, it's a little bit unfair with the labeling there. But okay.
Oh, wow.
But it's like, but again,
people are side-eyeing you.
I know it's like, who let him in here? You're at a paranormal con and you're a skeptic, you infiltrator, But it's like, again, it's kind of like coming at the angle of things where I'm always going to look at things, look at all the corners and the angles, and basically, we all should approach things skeptically because. Yeah, I mean, was it weird? Was it strange? Absolutely. But could there be an explanation for what happened? Times where I have caught disembodied voices. First one that comes to mind is when I was at Pennhurst for the very first time. That was in 2019. And I was, most of the stuff that we shoot for Unexplained Cases is on iPhone. I use an external mic and lights, have a little rig, but most of our stuff is shot on that because you can put it into 4K. But I will, I'll disable, put it on airplane mode and all the things basically. But I caught disembodied voices there that I cannot explain those, meaning I know that I was by myself. I know that I don't talk, I don't whisper, and I certainly don't talk while I'm recording things. But there were phrases that were recorded not once, not twice, but 3 different times that I was like, okay, so apparently someone decided to, especially since one of those was, we'll go with him. And I'm like, okay, that's a little startling to find out that apparently I had some escorts. I had some escorts walking me around the con there. So, all right. So.
Have you ever felt like one of them followed you home or something followed you home?
No, I've never felt that way. But then also, part of our process is definitely to have prayers of protection going in and leaving, and definitely making sure that anyone knows it's like, you don't have permission. We're protected by warrior angels, basically. So I've never had a moment where I was just like, hey, now I have had moments where I was kind of thinking maybe somebody was passing through, but not that anyone has followed me home from anything.
Nothing, nothing stayed. That's
cool. Right.
Well, that's good. Like nothing at your house has ever happened ever since doing any of this.
That was one of the things, my wife has definitely been like, you better not bring anything home.
I can't control him.
It's like,
oops, sorry.
Sorry. Yeah, but yeah, that's where I've kind of wondered that. But then again, it's kind of like I've never been afraid of it. I've never, expected it. I've never gone into a situation. There have been situations where I was like, okay, let's tread a little lightly. Now, some folks, especially if they want to spice up their content or whatever, might suddenly say demon, or something. And I'm just like, okay, just time out. Okay, I mean, it's great for content. It's great for views, especially network shows love to do that. Not everything is going to be that. I also know that I'm going to have an inkling for sure in my spirit of what is like, this is something different, as opposed to, someone's a little grumpy, basically. Someone's just basically, they didn't have their Wheaties this morning, and they are not really digging the fact that, here comes, jolly old Rick basically coming along, and it's kind of like the classic vibe. I mean, if someone's if you're having a bad day and someone comes in and they're all just like, hey, how you doing? Good to go. You're just like, get away from me, kid. Get off my lawn. So why wouldn't an entity do the same thing, basically,
Yeah, definitely. Talking about content, there was a lady. I think it was you that spoke to her. Rosie Grant. You know who I'm talking about?
Yes.
She's the lady that cooks recipes found on what would you call that?
Gravestones.
Yeah, gravestones. And I saw that article on her myself before, like randomly. I think it was like, you know how like Google shows you like random articles like on your regular page. I don't know what that's called. And I saw that and I thought it was like, oh man, that's kind of neat. That's kind of crazy. And then I saw on your YouTube that you actually spoke to her. Was it you or Darren? You, right? Yeah, for your voice, I could tell it was you. And I was like, damn, that's cool as hell, because I remember reading her story and like watching a little video clip on her.
Yeah.
And that's, I don't know. I thought that was cool that you found her and you interviewed her, but her story leading up to what would have been like the actual spooky place, which is Bunnyman Bridge.
Yep.
Where is that located at again?
That is in Northern Virginia, and that's where she lived at the time. She's out in California now. Actually, I'm not 100% sure. Like I don't think she's in LA, but I know she's out. San Francisco? I don't know. See, that's where I'm going to make up stuff, and we're just going to stop. California for sure. California for sure. That's only tens of thousands of miles long.
Right.
Y'all got a big state, okay? A big state. You like big states, and you cannot lie. I get it. It's fine. But before she had moved there, and this was also one of those to where, since she was in Northern Virginia, and again, the Bunnyman Bridge, lovely little urban legend, kind of weird, kind of creepy, and I'm like, yeah, okay, can't really do an episode on that. Again, it's like, content wise, sure, could do anything, but for the way we operate with our formula, it's like, again, I need to talk to somebody. And I feel like, Rosie was one of those to where, again, the beauty of social media, we connected and somehow started talking, and she's, that's where she's like, okay, listen, I've got a story, but it's not necessarily about, the bridge as much as it's what happened before the bridge.
Yes, exactly.
And just for those who aren't aware of it, because literally no one else has shared this, and that's always what I'm looking for. I'm like, yes, that's phenomenal to have the locations that people have been to and they're well known, and maybe they're even bucket lists. But when you have a story that no one else has experienced, that doesn't invalidate it, because in her case, she knows what she saw, and to dumb it down basically as much as possible, also known as, feel free to check out the episode if you'd like.
Yes. It's very cool. Very good.
It is for her to encounter this woman who is in all black, like they're in a mourning MOUR instead of MORN attire in the middle of a road, and basically, yeah, she looks solid, but again, like, any of us, if you're driving down a road, the last thing you expect is A, a person to be in the middle of it, B, for them to be dressed in all black like they need to be at like a funeral, and then for you to go by and not, right, and not really to see any distinguishing features except you can kind of say like, okay, that's an old lady, and you go by, and then if you turn around and go back, especially with that area, you're expecting like, I should be able to see this. It's an old lady. She's not like going to do she's not going to do a Tom Cruise sprint, basically. And
that would probably be scarier if you see that behind you. Holy shit!
You see, look in your rearview mirror, and she's just behind you.
I'll be terrified.
Legit. That's when you're basically pedal to the metal.
Yes.
But she couldn't find her anywhere. Like, and there was no, houses to hide behind or something like that. There's no way. So it's like, again, gone, there one moment, gone the next, and you're like, what just happened?
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I was glad, like, and it also was one of those moments to where it was just too weird for the schedule for me to get down there, but for her, proves how cool she is to basically like, okay, I'm going to drive down there with my phone and tell my story on the phone and show where I was at. I was like, thank you, Rosie. That's awesome. And it's good to turn that into an episode.
Everybody needs to get a dash cam.
See? Yeah. There you go. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I was going to ask you, at the end, does she believe, because I had something like that happen to me where I 100% think it was a spirit. I don't think it was a person. I know it wasn't a person. So does she think it was an actual lady, or does she think it was like a spirit?
I think to be safe, that she doesn't know. I think I feel like she may lean more to the fact that it was a spirit, but at the same time, she's just kind of like, what I experienced was weird. Yeah. And it didn't seem to apply to human, physics. So, and that's kind of like, that's almost, depending on who you are, that may be like, that's all I can say for fact. Now, does that mean it was a spirit? Does that mean it was like some type of like, again, was it like, something that was repeating itself? It had no intelligence. Basically, it was just a moment that was coming out of time or something like that, a time slip or, whatever you want to apply to it. That's where things can get complicated. But for it to have been 100% weird and unexplained, for sure, she believes that.
Yeah. Or have you ever, maybe not you, but do you know anybody else that possibly encountered maybe seeing a spirit while driving?
I haven't had anyone else share that. Now, I, like y'all and everyone in chat, probably have seen videos, and I will again. It's funny you mentioned dash cam. I'm like, to me, that's the only time, and if you can tell me that it was recorded on a dash cam, okay. But otherwise, there's literally, generally speaking, unless you're like Rosie and you're trying to retell a story, you're not going to be going down the road most of the time recording something, and then just suddenly there happens to be a spirit that pops up.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm like, I'm going to call shenanigans. Gonna call shenanigans on you right there, basically. That's the beauty of editing. Because there was even one that recently came across, but again, trains and not dash cams, but a lot of locomotives. You've got obviously for insurance purposes and everything else, you're always recording. So there was a video of an entity looked like a female in white, kind of drifting across the tracks. So I could say, okay, there's a reason why you had a camera going. So I'll have a little bit more plausibility. The fact that you were able to visually capture a full body apparition, which is of course very, very unlikely, very unique to have that happen.
Yeah, typically you catch it by accident, right?
Right. But so again, that's the skeptical, that's the, you look at stuff, doesn't mean that it's not weird, but was it, or what's the source? Could somebody have faked that?
Unless they were vlogging and showing the area, then that counts, right?
Sure.
Just gonna be like, here I am on a spooky road. Watch me drive down it.
Yes, I'm here and I'm doing my thing, and oh look, there it is. It's by command. It's like he got the check.
Yeah,
he got the check to actually show up. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
the chat, throw me some batteries.
Maybe it's happened. Maybe somebody's is legit.
Bullshit.
I mean,
The only one I think I've seen that I'm like, damn, that's I don't know what the hell it is. It looks like a lady, or it looks like somebody is it was a trucker. I know a lot of truckers have dash cams, and there was one that came out on the news. This was a couple years back. That one looked legit to me, but also I couldn't tell what it was. It looked like a person. I just can't remember. That's all. It's like 2 years old or something like that. That one looks. I believe that one.
Right.
I mean, we know truckers. We know truckers.
Yes,
They
and
have-
truckers there.
They know all their shit.
Yeah,
they're on the road all the time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I don't think he was trying to make a buck, but because nothing ever happened with that. It was just, wow, look at this what happened. And there's, next story. But it could happen.
Exactly. It could happen.
Yeah. So I wanted to talk about one of my favorite videos on your channel. Guys, please go check out Rick's YouTube, all his investigations, and his Instagram on there. So 2 years ago, you came out, and I can't believe it's 2 years already. So time flies. You came out with a video that's called Faith in the Paranormal. And I'll let you explain what it was, or what did you want to do with that. But my favorite person that spoke on there, which I resonated a lot with, was a lady named Heather, right? And then how she stopped. No, she had like family members, if I remember correctly, that kind of like wishy-washy with her because of her paranormal, and then maybe her investigations and stuff.
Yep.
I related a lot with her, what she said, because we had the same thing happen to us. And I remember you reached out to me to maybe do like a testimonial on that. I never got around to it because it's life.
Absolutely. I understand.
Adulting, but definitely would still like to if you were still doing that. But yeah, because we've had experienced that. So what did you want to do with the faith and paranormal when you brought that out?
Well, that all started very personal because, for me, basically, I became a Christian at age 14. And so, when you grow up basically in that environment, there are things that are taught, and depending on which denomination that you're in, some things can be very, very prevalent. And so for me, it was Southern Baptist, and I definitely think that that's, a part of the Southern Baptist faith is, something that's emphasized is, basically not having anything to do with Halloween, for example, and that there are no such things as ghosts. Those are only demons or familiar spirits and angels. That's the only thing that exists. And so anything else, UFOs, cryptids, all of that is evil and demonic, basically. And, so I heard all that. But then at the same time, what I was having to rationalize was that folks were having experiences that didn't fall into that. And then it started becoming so generally, the focus of the enemy is to deceive, and then basically to take their focus off of God, to let them question their faith in a lot of ways. And that can be done very subtly, and it could just be slowly chipped away at. But folks were just having experiences, and a lot of times they were comforting. They were, reassuring. They weren't scary. They weren't crazy, basically. And so it just became like this question that I had to explore, because thinking like, as I was going through this, I was like, all right, let's see what other folks are experiencing, because, and that's also, again, going back to what I mentioned earlier about folks not wanting to come forward and talk. I feel like even more so if you basically are a person of faith, but yet you have an interest in the paranormal, or especially if you've had experiences, you're even less likely to talk about it, because now, okay, you need to pray about that. You need to, flee from that. Don't have anything to do with that. This is what you're experiencing. And it's like, well, hold on a second. And so to me, it became an exploration of why it was also interesting to reach out and have so many different folks and spend some time. That's also the beauty of YouTube, is that the episode could be super long, basically, in that sense, because it was like, I think it was pretty well close to 4 hours, and there was easily 2 hours that I had to drop with the amount of testimonials that I had. But to just basically get people's takes, and again, what they had experienced as far as also being judged or being ostracized in a way because of their experiences. And it's just another layer of what people, if you even remove the faith aspect from it, it's another layer of what people can experience when they've had something very strange and unexplained happen to them, but they don't want to talk about it because they don't want to be judged by it.
Yeah. That they lose, like how, say, she mentioned, or I would mention that lose be friends and family members, and they shun you or don't want to talk to you because of that, and then everything's always demonic to them or whatever, and it doesn't have to be like that. Whatever it was a angelic experience or a positive experience,
Exactly.
Like
Yeah.
Like politics, same thing.
I was going to say something. What you said?
Like politics.
Oh yeah. Like everything.
Yes.
But
That shit up the butt. Anyway.
Yes. So well, and that's what's funny is well, there's definitely yeah, that's the thing, is like, basically all of a sudden it's like, oh, you're viewed a certain way, basically. And I mean, that's
why is religion so strict on that? Do they think,
well, the view of that is that basically, to put it very simply, is that when someone passes, basically they're not going to be on this earthly plane. So in that case, your existence is, in essence, you're either going to be with God or you're not. And it's, however you could say heaven or hell, you could say that however you'd like to put it, but you're away from this existence. Believed. Yeah. Well, exactly. You're away from this existence, so you're not going to be experiencing that here. And so therefore, again, since demons are on this existence and can interact with, that's why people would say, okay, there are no human spirits, they could only be that is the belief there. Part of my journey is, like, to me, it makes perfect sense for someone basically to be with Jesus, to be with God, and to not be on this plane. But then I've also wondered, well, okay, could spirits that are being interacted with, being apart from God is basically hell. I mean, again, you can get it as semantics, but that's basically what it is. You are separated from God. To me, I can't think of what would be more hellish to be actually on this plane, being able to experience other people, especially friends and family currently, but then if I don't pass on, or I linger or whatever, and continue to remain, that to me feels like hell. So then you basically are like, well, are entities that are encountered, are they, whether you want to call it stuck, trapped in a form of hell? I mean, it's a theory, basically, but it also could be legit.
Well, and you're doing all of this for, like, obviously so many years. We've come up with, like, our own little theories of what we think of. It evolves every day. It's always like a learning thing, and it could be this, could be that. What is your thought, like, right now? What are spirits, or like who are we talking to when you do a spirit box session? Like,
that's good. Yeah.
Who do you? Is it spirit? Is it maybe some people say, like, us in the future, or like they're investigating us? Like, what is your thoughts on it?
Well, I think that the longer that we've done this, I think the more complicated the thoughts can get. Basically, like, to me, the thought that I don't have is, sure, it'd be great if it was that easy, that John Smith is rumored to haunt this place, and here's, you know, his backstory, and to walk in and say, hey, is John Smith here? And someone respond, oh, that's John. But to me, what makes that complicated is I don't really know that that's John, because that could 1,000% be someone else who's basically stepped in and say, and now playing the role of John is 𝗟𝗏𝗃𝗀𝗃. I mean, I don't have any idea, basically, at that point. We don't truly know. But also, what can again make it a layer is another theory, is especially you have places that have folks continually visiting, is what if there was no entity there at all, but because you've had people who keep going, you could have an emotional impression, for lack of a better word, that was left, you know, 100 years ago. And basically, as people have visited and this is fed into it, basically it thinks it's alive. It actually thinks it's John Smith, although it never had a life. But it's got all this information that it's gleaned from everybody. And now it's like, okay, basically, it's time for me to step onto the stage and perform, basically. Oh, look, they're asking the same questions. Oh, look, they want me to knock again. I don't actually feel like knocking tonight. I'm basically going to be quiet. But it never had any life.
I mean, we've had some, when we did the thing with Casey, we swore it was his voice we heard through the spirit box. I mean, that's kind of like, to us, that made us feel like maybe it could be him. We're not 100% sure. We'll never know. But I mean, it felt good to hear his tone, how he would say it.
Right.
And how much was, you know, it was wild.
Yeah.
Does it happen all the time? No. You know, but
not at all. And I mean, and like you're saying, like if it's something to where it is someone who, let's say they, you know, relatively recently passed, whether it's a friend or family member or whatever, and in that case, you know what they sound like, you know, or if it were someone, you know, let's say if it was someone famous, we're not going to go down that rabbit hole about people who do stuff with that.
I thought about doing that.
No, my point is there are some who take advantage of that, and that's all.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah.
But it was like, if you know, if you have locked in your head what a voice sounds like, and then you hear that come through a spirit box, it's like, wow, that's
even him. Like, for him not being, he was even surprised, and usually his reactions were like, oh, you know what I mean. But when he was like, oh, when he says, oh shit, it's
the voice came out. It was pretty distinct, very like you couldn't miss it.
And that's what and that's what makes it kind of crazy, you know. But and then that's also when you kind of have to, and this is where we don't have time to tear this apart, because obviously we could talk hours about this, but it's like, again, you have, you know, with the spirit box and what it is and what it does, and you're having something that, you know, and of course, to me, I've always thought it's funny. I feel like there's two different theories. There's some who will say, oh, you know, it's scanning the radio signals, and so basically a spirit is going to use what's there to form words. Okay. But then you also have like the kind of the whole voice coming through the static type of situation, which I'm like, I kind of lean more to that one than trying to actually, you know, use what's there and pull it together. But again, you know, people feel strongly about what it's doing. The fact is you're clearly hearing things, but you have an entity that I'll touch on that shortly. You have a situation there where it's basically like, it's telepathy is the closest way I'll think about it, because in that case, a lot of things are going to be heard, you know, because frankly, at that point, a spirit, or if you want to get extraterrestrial or whatever, it's a telepathic type of thing, and that's how we know what's going on. There's no organ, there's no air to make sound.
Like,
so then if you're
mind readers,
so if you're hearing something, it's like, But how else in that moment could something come across? Or is it truly pareidoial, audio pareidoial as opposed to visual?
Mhm.
The question real quick, have I been around someone impacted badly? One of our team members, Michael Chen, and I know we may be running tight on time, so I'll make this short, but basically it was definitely an example of don't treat this like a game is really about the way, because sometimes folks, they'll come to me and like, oh, I'm interested in what equipment will I, need to do. And I'm like, you don't have to go out and buy a bunch of stuff. Honestly, your body is the first piece of equipment. You can perceive things. Your intuition may be stronger, better, more trained than mine, but you're perceiving something. Now, if you have a device, your phone, put it on airplane mode so it's not receiving other signals. Your phone is a tape recorder, basically. It's an audio recorder. Or, it is a little bit better to have something separately removed. So have your own recorder. That's something that's also fairly inexpensive. A lot of people already have that. You don't have to, people have cameras. You don't have to go and invest in a bunch of stuff, but you do have to be prepared. Like if you go into something and you're just like busting up into somebody's house and saying, "Hey, I'm here," basically.
What's up? Take my energy. Suck it out of me. You need energy? Here you go.
Then that's going to go badly, because just think if you walked up into a stranger's house, some people might be a little okay, but then be like, "You need to go away." Some people would shoot you.
Yeah.
So for us, again, I mentioned, prayer protection coming and going, but Mike Chen was at the burying grounds, basically, which was a 300-year-old cemetery in Beaufort, North Carolina. And he was doing a live, and this was when we had the live show, basically, and that was back during the pandemic. And so Darren and I, Darren at the time was in Arizona, I'm in Maryland, Mike's in North Carolina. He's in this situation. And again, great TV was hearing Mike at the time be like, "Oh, F," and basically tear across the cemetery. And I'm thinking, oh my God, don't trip, don't fall. You're running over graves. It's in the middle of the night. What are you doing? What's happened? I'm thinking all these thoughts, basically. And he finally collects himself and he's like, "Dude, and this is not like Mike. Mike doesn't get freaked out, but for him, he heard and he felt this energy that was rushing towards him that had already been kind of screwing with him throughout the night. He apparently had a bit of an attachment that 𝗟𝗏𝗪𝗘, who is one of our psychic artists on the show, basically drew a picture of, and Mike regrets that I showed him what this hag looked like. But we got rid of her, basically. But it was all because I firmly believe it's like, bro, you didn't pray for poor, did you? No. And I was like, and you didn't pray afterwards either? No. Okay. So sometimes you can get away with it, but in that case, no. That was a bad evening.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Especially in the cemetery. When I was little, I was always told, do something, at least with some type of protection in the cemetery.
Yes.
Yeah.
Was he okay after you guys left though?
So it was just him, and that's where we found out is kind of where he was just really agitated and was just kind of like just in a funk and whatever. And so that's why he reached out, and Angela did a little, basically looked at a picture of him and was like, yeah, something's going on. And, in her case, her gift is she can actually draw out what she's seeing, and other mediums, basically, they could describe it for everyone, different skills, different abilities. And so she had offered, her background is Catholic. So she had offered here's some stuff you should pray, here's some, some salt, some holy water, basically, here's some things that you should do, basically to relieve you of this. And it did, and he didn't have any problems afterwards. But that's where, going back to the, don't FAFO basically. And when you go to an abandoned place, especially, I put this in this category, or even a cemetery, 2 places, they're free, they're easy to get into, but you don't know what spiritually you're getting into. And if you're not prepared, then you wonder why sometimes afterwards you're having health problems, or you're agitated, or fill in the blank with stuff that's normally not used, because someone decided to basically be like, "Oh, fresh meat. Let me go and check out your place and see what's going on."
Yeah, definitely. Wow. Well, that's a good way to end the show, though. So caution.
Yes.
Don't FAFO.
Yes. Slap it on the shirt.
Please, folks, the
story.
best way that you can show us love is by showing love to our guests. And Rick is part of the list of many of guests and friends that we've had on the show. So you can support Rick very easily by going to YouTube and type it in on search bar, Unexplained Cases, where you'll see a lot of investigations, a lot of walkthroughs, a lot of conversations about cryptids and a step out of the paranormal as well. I did really enjoy the Raven episode that you just released. Just one quick question, and then I'll close. Are you going to be doing another investigation or episode at that location? Because it was awesome.
Yeah, that was just a walkthrough. That was the same trip that was during a ScareCon that they had there, and that was just one that was just like we heard a weird noise, very sudden weird noise. Let's walk through the whole house. And so that's why I enjoyed making that. To actually do a real investigation there, because I know Brian Riley, who was in that video. I definitely hope to arrange that in the future, because that is a fascinating house full of history and definitely full of hauntings too.
Awesome. So if you guys want to check that episode out, as well as another few amazing episodes that Rick has, please again go to Unexplained Cases and on YouTube, and you'll be able to check it out. And as always, folks,
thank you guys in the chat for all your comments and stuff, and your
comments, the questions for Rick. Thank you guys very much. The few of you guys that have subbed to Rick's channel, thank you guys for doing that as well. And as always, guys, please remember, if you want to get spooked, hit that notification bell, the like button, and please feel free to comment on this episode. Tell your friends, tell your family, watch Spooked Coast. See you guys live next Sunday.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.